Okay, so I'm a product of New York in the 70s. You never know what's gonna happen.
Right.
And one night I got a call. They put me in a helicopter and we went all the way to Miami. That was a shit show. But I got to
Why
Miami
why was it a shit show?
because I'm afraid of heights, and we were in a fucking helicopter. It was a time of black exploitation movies, and it was a time of like sex, and in that little world started forming disco. So disco was like starting to take its shape, and so I was on the forefront of that. And what a lot of people don't know is that disco also paved the way for hip hop. So
Explain.
because you would take those tracks and they would just, somebody had to take the tracks with two turntables and play the tracks to extend them so people could express themselves with their poetry over it.
Ago, it's the conversation. Yeah. Take your mind different places. Now you know. So yeah, we got DJ BLUEPHUNK in the house. What's up,
Yeah,
bro?
what's up, fam?
How are you?
What's up, fam? I'm good.
Good.
Baby. I'm good.
I'm excited to have this conversation with you because you have such a wild, diverse history under your belt with explorations that you did, not only with DJing, but with the different jobs you've had over the years. How'd you started DJing? What made you even start DJing? What was the era that you started DJing, and how was it like?
Okay, so I'm a product of New York in the 70s. So music was always my thing. It was always a thing that was played throughout the house. I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and my grandparents had this big hi-fi. Actually, they were the only people who had a hi-fi, so they played everything from Motown to country music. So music was always a thing that was always surrounding me. When I came back to live with my mom in Jersey, she too always had music all around. So I was always starving for like music. So I would write poems in my head and, and sing them out loud or sing them to myself, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Then I was just like, I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, when I left home for summer and lived in New York all by myself. Well, I actually left home. My mom kind of threw me out for going to the clubs all the time.
For real? At 14, 15
yeah.
years old?
She's like, well, come mouse with the birds chirping. And one day she had all my bags packed. And like, I just went to New York and just survived. And going in and out of clubs and seeing the different lifestyles of New York. I mean, I'm a Southern kid coming for the first time, seeing a prostitute, and it was a time of black exploitation movies, and it was a time of like sex, and in that little world started forming disco. So disco was like starting to take its shape, and so I was on the forefront of that. And what a lot of people don't know is that disco also paved the way for hip hop. So
Explain.
because you would take those tracks and they would just, somebody had to take the tracks with two turntables and play the tracks to extend them so people could express themselves with their poetry over it.
Wow.
So because I was a disco file and a DJ, so for the most part, I was that guy. So I would get the two turntables and I would extend the groove and then write the raps secretly for whoever was rapping at the time.
Wow.
So yeah.
So wait, you was ghostwriting?
Kind of ghostwriting. I guess you want to call it ghostwriting. But I wrote with the idea. So I would approach the person, like the rapper, like, okay, this is the idea I had. And they would like rehearse it. And it was like, all right. And throw their little thing in it, whatever they want to feel. But ghostwriting, because I felt the groove. A lot of rappers didn't really know where to go. They would sound like everybody else. But I could write where people could sound like themselves, if that makes any sense. So we had like MC Spoonie G and Grandmaster Flash and all those things. This is before Rapper's Delight. So it was people were still doing their thing.
What was the environments like?
The environment was like in New York was like every borough had their thing. It was Manhattan was the ground where everybody came on the weekend. So Bronx dressed a certain way, Brooklyn dressed a certain way, Jersey dressed a certain way. Everybody, you could tell who was from who just walking down the street.
Where was you at?
I was in Jersey, so I was living in Jersey and I would sneak to New York. So I had the flat top, or at the time the flat top or the shag, or it depends on what decade it was.
Okay.
It was either flat top or we had like shag, curl hair, and we always look a little. I think Jersey looked more effeminate than the rest of the guys.
Really?
When I say that, I'm talking about crop tops and and we would wear crop tops and shorts and whereas Brooklyn, Bronx always looked like they were going to war. Like they always had, they always had the colors and like they were going to war. So people could always tell who was who and those things. And very rarely that you got into a scuff, but you could always tell who was who. And so I would do these ghost writings, and then so it was my idea to take one person from each borough, and then have like a little group. So I had this guy, one guy from the Bronx, I had a Spanish guy, somebody from Manhattan, and a guy from Jersey, and somebody else, and I would write these little rhymes and had them do it. And we did well. I mean, we did little grooves and stuff like that. But that was the days you had to lug records.
Right.
So everybody had to get the crates. So nobody made money because you had to rent a van, get the crates, carry all the records,
Jeez.
blah, blah, blah. Now it's like your laptop in a
So
drive.
spending money.
In a drive, yeah. So we weren't there for them. It wasn't there for the money.
Right.
And then, but hanging out, I went to all the plays in the 70s. So as a runaway, you had to sleep somewhere. So when the theaters were let out for the intermission, we didn't eat seat fillers. So it was my bright idea to go in and be the seat filler. And they knew that we didn't buy the tickets, but they just let us sit.
Wow.
So I saw Cats and Pippin and all these famous 70s Broadway plays by happenstance. And then I got to sneak into all the discos. I was in Studio 54 at like 15, and in the Paradise Garage. So I met like Keith Haring and Bassawas and oh God, Andy Warhol,
Okay.
in their makings, in their forms, what they were doing,
Before.
Yeah, so I mean, in that time, just hanging out in New York City, whenever.
How was it coming across these individuals and like, did you, I don't know, build a relationship afterwards?
No, it was imperative to me just to be the fly on the wall. I was never trying to be a star or a rock star. It was just they surround themselves with people who understood them. So, I'm leaving the club one day and Keith Haring is like, where you going? I said, I'm going to the garage. He didn't know me, I didn't really know him. And he was put these stencils on the ground and spray paint them. And we did that all the way to 54, which I think it's 54th and 8th or 9th, what street it was, all the way to like Varick Street in where the garage was. And we spray painted these little stencils, his which is this.
Right.
So this is Keith. Yeah, this is
Pop Shop Tokyo.
Yeah, so this is what his stencils looked like. He wasn't even a person yet.
Wow.
And then we went to the club and get in and blah 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 blah. And then one random night, we wound up in Brooklyn at Truman Capote's house. And I had no idea that he wrote in Cold Blood. He was a writer.
That's insane. How'd you end up at his house?
It was after hours, and everybody's like. And it was like, we're going here, and meet us here. So I got to Brooklyn. Yeah. I think I don't know who I was hanging with, but they was part of their little crew. And then we wound up at this old white guy's house, and then it was just different random people, and all of a sudden you see Andy Warhol walking in, and you saw Andy Leibovitz, and all these people were just walking in, but I had no idea who they were. It was just people, random artsy people,
right,
in this really stuffy a house in Brooklyn. Wow. And it wasn't until later I realized who this person was. That this was, the Truman Capote.
That's insane.
I haven't seen him in a movie actually. I haven't
really?
seen it was a movie. One day I was watching this random movie, and I was like, this guy's house. I think it was Murder by Death or something. I think that's the name of the movie. But he was there, and I realized who this person was.
Wow.
And then and what I want to say is that my life has been happenstance. It was never nothing was ever planned in my life. Wow. It was just I woke up one day and somebody. I don't know, the powers that be sent me here, and I went willingly. But every time I showed up, I gave them 110%. And that's where I think people should do. Sometimes I don't want to do this. I'm in a horrible job. But you give it your all. If I had to clean toilets, I would be the best toilet cleaner there is because somebody's going to see you and take you and put you someplace else.
You never know,
you
right?
Never know.
In life, and there's sometimes I feel like people are married to their ideas. Mm-hmm. They're married to the idea of how they should live their life, or they're married to an idea which keeps them stuck living a certain way. But then they don't evolve past that because of their own choices. Mm-hmm. But I want to get back into like your DJing. When did you start going international? When did you start traveling, going to different places? Okay, so I was always a DJ, but like I said, I never wanted to be a person on the stage. So my DJing was just random parties. And then when I started working for Sony Music Studios, it was a little club called Fusion. This guy was opening up this bar named Oscar was opening up this bar called Fusion. It was right across the street from Sony. So I was like, you know what? Thursday nights, I would like to do a little something Thursday nights. Just come in. He's like, all right, let's do it. So we worked out a little deal. And I think it was like $125 a night. And I would do these little things. So I played house music.
and I played like house disco music. And the first night, you know, it was quiet. People came in, and then people would go, "Oh my God, you can't believe you playing that and playing that." And there was an actor across the street. I can't remember his name, but he came one day. I can't think of his name, but he came one day and he brought some people the next Thursday.
Nice.
And then working for Sony, I met Jamiroquai. So I was telling him what I did, and he gave me some demos. So I would play the demos, and then that started me playing the demos tracks of some of the Sony artists that just to, you know, to see what, and they would come sometimes and sit in the back and watch it. So that became a thing on Thursday nights. So Fusion Thursday nights was like Blue Funk was a thing.
Nice.
And then we started like doing, you know, little cards and things and putting it out there and little billboards, and it was a thing. And then I went from there. Somebody heard me, and then I went from there to a club called APT. It was like the first lounge in Meatpacking District back in the 90s, like 90s, I won't say 90s. It was like the hard door to get in. It was like, I did Sunday nights upstairs, and then Soho House, and then there's, you know, Gansevoort. And then what had happened, I never went out to look for these jobs. People just like me. And so, for instance, some prince one day said, when I turn 40, you come and do my 40th birthday party. He lived in Abu Dhabi, or whatever.
What?
And just like that, he called me, and I was in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I was playing at...
All paid for?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was playing at Bungalow 8 one night, and Madonna had a club in Manhattan, in Miami, called Liquid. And her partner at the time, she said, "Well, why don't you come one night and play Liquid?" And I was like, I mean, you never know what's gonna happen. Right. And one night, I got a call. They put me in a helicopter, and we went all the way to Miami. That was a shit show. But I went.
Why was it a shit show?
Because I'm afraid of heights, and we were in a fucking helicopter. But it was dope. The experience was dope. And so I got to meet Versace afterwards. So we all partied in Versace's place, and then I just, you know. And so, you know, it's been a whirlwind. And so forth. I get the calls and I do what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm also a personal trainer as well.
Wow.
So that is whole nother story another day. But once again, it's a happenstance situation. I don't ever go out and promote myself, because I think that me per se, that it doesn't give me an expiration date. Because I was never a brand. So, you know, so I'm always, if I want to do something, if I make a new record, I want to play it, I'll either make a phone call, or somebody always do, "Can you do a party for me?" And I'll say, "Okay," and I'll debut that new song and see what the audience thinks. And that's kind of how it works, man.
Wow, man. So you also did personal training?
Yes, I do personal training, body morphing personal training.
Explain that.
So let's say you have a movie like The Hulk, and I worked on that, and Ed Norton.
You worked on the Hulk?
Yes, the one with Ed Norton.
Okay.
And he needs a certain body, so I met with him. How they filmed it was they filmed the ending part in Canada, which is the Harlem scene, and then so I met him in Canada, and we started training there for a couple of days, and then I DJ'd that party. And then we went to Brazil to film the rest of it. So we would get up in the morning, as incredible guy. He would get up, write and rewrite the script, rehearse, train, act, blah, 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 and then rinse, repeat, and do it all over again.
Nice. Yeah. Very disciplined.
Yeah. So we did that, and then that morphed into other actors who would come from California to New York because they needed a thing, and then I got with one of my favorites, Mark Rylance. So any thespians out there, Mark Rylance, another great and amazing person. I did 4 of his plays. So
how was that like?
Well, I would go to the theater and right before and train him like an hour before he had to go on set sometimes, which I don't know how he did that. So I think we did a play called Jerusalem, if I'm not mistaken, where he dives into this bathtub, and so we would train for like an hour and a half, and then he would go right to costume, and then go right into a 3-hour thing on TV. Once it was such a long show that he hired me to train all the background people. That's how dope he was, to train all the people, the cast, to train the cast as a class. Personal, to get them in shape.
That's insane.
Yeah. So,
and he paid for that.
Yeah.
That's
so because he did, I said, let's work out a deal, because this is phenomenal. So you do that type of thing because that's what you do.
Right, because it's almost paying it forward.
Yeah, basically.
You know?
Yeah, because everything is not about dollars and cents. It's not always about money.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's just like, wow, this is a good guy. You know, and so I've done that. So, and sometimes it works out where it all. So I went to Paris to work with Lenny, Paris, and Lenny was getting some work out of him because he was doing a concert, and he said, "You want to open for me?" I was like, "Sure."
Lenny Kravitz?
Lenny Kravitz. So
Lenny
Wednesday night, Lenny,
Yeah.
what Lenny do you know? Anyway, so it was Wednesday. One Wednesday night, I opened for Lenny Kravitz in La Zenith in Paris, and so that was a double feature. You train a little bit, and you regular workout. So sometimes it works out. It works out.
Because then you get to do both.
Yeah.
Both of your passions.
Yeah.
What is one of the individuals that you've gotten to work with that surprised you?
Well, I would think. Let me see. When I was working for Sony, working for Sony, you spend more time with people because they have times like you. So one day we were working with David Bowie, and he was in there for Live by Request, and he had been there a week, and it was right after 9/11, and something happened. There was an explosion on 25th Street, something like that, and he grabbed me. He was like, "You think we've been on attack again?" And I'm thinking, "No, man, we going down. It is what it is." But that moment. After that moment, him and I had conversations, and I realized that this guy was such an amazing person because he talked about his roots in black music and the racism in America and the things that he saw and the things that we can do. And if you know people who I'm sure that knows David Bowie, he's not very talkative. He's kind of, but we had a great conversation. So that was a surprise. Everybody that I work with was kind of surprised because you don't know these people. You just know them for how you know them on the screen.
Right.
And I couldn't ever say, there's maybe two people I could say that didn't rub me the wrong way. But other than that, everybody was amazing. So I want to give everybody amazing.
You don't have to say the name, but what rubbed you the wrong way exactly?
They were horrible. They were mean to their people. They were mean to their people. They were arrogant. They were just arrogant and mean to their people. And one really surprised me. Old school, I guess you would call it a diva, I guess, really surprised me. I mean, people give Cher a hard time, but she was cool with me. I mean, because everybody I work with.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to you're not gonna jive with everyone, right?
No, you're not.
But then there are tyrants.
Yeah,
and that's the difference,
well,
right?
Yeah, my thing is how you treat your people.
Right.
I mean, I would never see you again. I don't give.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get paid through the company, so you're not.
It's not a problem for you.
Yeah, but working with, I've met everyone for the most part. My idol is Prince. Everybody knows that.
Oh.
And so I get to meet Prince for the first time, and I don't want to mess this up because I want Prince to say something stupid, and I have to throw all his records away. So he comes to Sony to master. Well, that's not the first time I met him. I met him before that when he was doing the Symbol album at Limelight.
Okay.
But that was just a meeting on the stair real quick, and then I met his people.
Limelight is that church, right?
Yes, correct. So he was there doing a
story.
promo for his album, and the Symbol album, and we kind of crossed on the stairs. But I met his people at the time, Diamonds and Pearls, yeah. And we kind of became friends. But I didn't want to really meet him because I didn't want, like I said, I didn't want to fuck up something. So going forward, he comes to Sony to master Emancipation, and somebody goes, "Derek, Prince is going to be in the studio, blah blah blah, master. You want to? I'm not your boy." I was like, "All right." So I go and I sit in the back, and this guy was in there with the master, turning all the knobs, doing everything himself. What was the point of you hired this master guy when you were doing all the mastering? But once again, I just kind of sat back and watched him. Didn't say a word.
Wow. How was that like? Did you notice anything, or he was just working?
Yeah, he was doing him. He was doing him. He spoke. He did him.
Because one of the top independent artists of music, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at how many individuals don't choose that route, they sign deals that they prefer. And what do you think about that? What's a better option? To sign under a label or to work it out independently?
Well, it's two different things. Okay, so at the same exact time, Sade is an artist under Sony. Her thing is she goes into the studio in England or London, whatever she records, Paris, whatever it is, and she delivers a finished product. The artwork is done, the music is done, mixed, mastered. I guess she gets a stipend from the company to do it. And all she used Sony for was to do the promotion and distribution. So Prince kind of flipped his deal because in the beginning it was the 70s when he started. So you needed a record company to back you, to give you the money for the studio time. Now with studios in your home, you can make your own studio. So basically you just use the studios for distribution. I saw at the end of the home studio how the studios were raping like rap artists and young artists because they would build all these fees up. And by the time your album come out, you're broke.
Right.
Because if they give you 100,000 and then you only get a penny on per album, you know, you know, and then everything is leased and borrowed, and then, you know, so these stories. So I would say at this particular time that we all have home studios, you would just use whatever you need for distribution. Now basically you can just go on and put your own thing out and how many clicks you get. So now it's down to how many people are following you.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day.
It's true.
So
the streams definitely changed the entire
it changed
music
the game.
industry.
It changed the game.
Yeah.
It changed the game. It did. I mean, so I think that eventually acting is on. It's like now we have 1,000 channels, and we have to fill those channels up with something. So people can do their own movies now.
Yeah.
You know, and all you just get the word out. Just get the word out, and somebody will watch it, and it'll become an audience, and then somebody big will buy it.
It's true. It's just the production value is gonna be
Well,
different.
I mean, some of these big budget movies look like garbage too. I mean, they filmed them with loose hands, and you see them. Look at the Office. How was The Office filmed? Like a hand with
Simple.
a hand. Yeah, you saw them the camera, and it became a phenomenon, right?
It's true.
So I think that you create your own style. Nothing is in cement. When I write a song, I'm not trying to sound like the next person, and I don't care if they say, "Oh, it doesn't sound like a radio song on the radio," because by the time that song gets on the radio, it was made, God knows how long ago. So even when you have a passion for something, I would say you are the artist. You are you make the scene. You make the moment. You make that art your own. You know.
Absolutely. I believe that people don't pursue originality because they just want to do what works. They want to see what, like, you know,
exactly.
Like, this has been done before. I can just follow this road.
And usually the thing
right.
that they choose before it made some kind of money. So it's always
Right.
a financial reason
Yeah.
why. I mean, nobody wants to do something that didn't sell, but why not? Why not do something that didn't sell? Why not? I mean, because we all take from the universe different things. So do something different. Make it. It doesn't have to be in that format.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. I think it's to each their own, right? And usually, once someone does it, then it's a trickle effect.
Then someone else.
Right?
Yep.
Or
Yeah.
they try to or that becomes a subgenre. You know,
True.
whatever the difference was. Who did that? I think Nirvana did that, right?
Yeah.
In a way, their messaging. I read somewhere something that like music was really like punk, and that Nirvana came through and like
Made it more
changed-
grungy, but there's elements of disco in there because when the drummer goes into the that is the Gap Band. That he took a drum lick from a Gap Band, which is a funk move, and put it into a grunge song, and it became groovy. Right now, you can play Nirvana in a Teen Spirit, and people dance to it because you don't know why, because the drums are disco under the bottom of it.
So you definitely believe that disco holds a strong influence in
Disco is, even though it got crashed and beat up, and because it was making it was making too much money. It was making too much money, so somebody had to kill it. But it's today. It's still.
But I don't understand that. Like, how could it make too much money and someone want to kill it? Isn't
because
that a good
everybody,
thing?
because everybody, well, because no, because if you're doing okay, so I think the end of disco came from a rock DJ that went to a baseball game or whatever game it was, and they burnt the records. They weren't even disco records; they were just burning records, and you know, and people just jumped on the bandwagon, and so disco died, and people were disco sucks, and what was happening was. It was making so much money that rock stars were making disco records. So rock people were making discos. Everybody, it got oversaturated like everything else. So I guess it had to die for whatever reason because everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing it. So it had to die and get a rebirth. But like I said, hip hop. Before Prince did Dove's Cry, the new hip hop didn't take drums and make it the lead. When Doves Cry is a track that has no bass line in it because the drums is the bass line. People don't even understand that's now how hip hop came right after that, but by putting the drums up front and making it the bass line.
Wow. Yeah.
Prior to that, they were just sampling or putting bass bass guitars and bass stuff to it.
Well, I see that. I see how the correlation displays. When did you start to love disco? Because disco kind of almost came and went too, right? So you said you were on the frontier of that.
Well, disco.
Like, how did disco appear to you?
Well, disco was with R&B. So you have like the first disco record I made was 10%. Well, the first 12-inch. Let's put it that way. So disco was just rhythmic. It was just disco was always here. It was just a rhythmic. It became a format. So anything dancey was pretty much disco, I guess. And then they gave it a name, and then they put certain elements to it. Disco was a format. So, everything was a 4/4. So anything that had a 4/4 beat was pretty much happenstance. And then when people found a formula, like this formula sells, this formula sells. So let's take this formula and get you to sing it and get so everybody took that formula with horns and blah blah blah. So they were just borrowing shit. And everybody had a sound. So Miami had a sound. That was Casey and the Sunshine Band. New York had a sound. Philly had a sound. California had a sound. So Europe, crazy, couldn't even speak English, but they would get like American black women and bring them over to France or London or England and sing these riffs and then put these 4/4 beats and make incredible music. So everybody was eating. Everybody was eating. And then, like I said, it had to die. And then that emerged into something else.
All right, you gotta break that down though. Like, why do you think that it had to die?
Well, look at hip hop.
Because I don't get.
Look at all the genres of hip hop.
Okay.
So you take Rapper's Delight, and you know what that sounds like, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then you go into Dr. Dre. That doesn't sound like Rapper's Delight, but Dr. Dre took Parliament Funkadelic beats. So that's if you buy the album Mothership Connection and you play the early California hip rap. It's that old album became their album.
I see what you're saying.
So that was their sound. But that was but George Clinton is from Newark, New Jersey. A bebop guy that became a funk guy. So it all James Brown beats. That was funk. Those hip hop beats was New York. They took them tracks and edited them up, and people started rapping on top of them. James Brown, funky, a Southern boy. But then the South rap doesn't sound like James Brown, even though James Brown came from the South. So Southern rap doesn't sound. So everybody just takes something and just try something new, and then it hits, and then it sticks, and then everybody else just follows suit.
Wow. It's true.
Now disco is coming back. Everybody's got a 4/4 beat and wah guitars, and they're sampling Chic, and they're sampling these people.
Interesting. I remember I was living in Tallahassee for a little bit, and I met a producer.
Florida.
And I met a producer that was creating like music from the '80s, but like now, today. And I swear to you, it sounds like something that The Weeknd would fucking
exactly.
be,
and I think
honestly.
the '80s was the best decade ever.
Really,
the '80s. Every artist. Right now, people still play Eurythmics' "Sweet Dreams." Any club, you know what I'm talking about, song, right? Sweet dreams are made of these.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah. '80s. Everybody. So you had Prince, you had Michael Jackson, you had Grace Jones, you had Eurythmics, you had all these European artists that was singing, that were doing R&B music. So the '80s was a lot of European white artists doing '70s R&B music.
Right.
And then that became their sound.
Wow.
And then MTV comes into play. So now we get to see these mini videos of people performing. And even in its racist start, it still did a fledgling to create a whole genre of new music.
Wow.
So, but the '80s were the best period because it came out of the '70s and it borrowed from the '60s and the '50s, and then it brought synthesizers in. So they were recreating the sounds of live bands through synthesizers and Moog machines, and just really homing in. Because in the '70s, Stevie Wonder was the king of Moog machines. Those are buttons, the knobs that makes those wild. Now every keyboard and everything has that, but that was how computers started.
Wow.
So that was then. So you got the '80s coming in with the new added addition of keyboards and computers. So they were imitating sounds with computers now.
That's insane.
Yeah. And so, best period. No one sounded like anyone else.
Right. They couldn't.
Well, they couldn't because they just couldn't emulate. They just everybody just kind of pushed out whatever worked for them. The drum machine and Eurythmics was a mistake But they kept it in and it worked. A lot of times when you hear these interviews, people say, "Oh, that was a mistake," and they just kept the mistake
Wow.
in.
Okay, so I have a new question for you. Do you believe that the uniformity of music, like keeping everyone in line in a way, kind of also reflects in society? So, if music is mind control, if you will, you know what I mean, and everyone's following suit in music, then everyone would follow suit in society as well.
Well, why do you think music is mind control?
I'm saying if certain music is pushed out and other music isn't pushed out, then that predominant music is being used for a reason.
Okay.
I can see the certain music get to a point where like it's just based out of popularity. A lot of people like it, right? But then I feel like there's also other music that it's like, why is this?
Well, it's a business. It's
Right.
a business. So when people, I hear a lot of hip hop artists say that, oh, the man wanted us to keep singing songs about beating our black women and shooting each other. I think that came from a story that you told. Now, nobody put a gun to your head. You could have changed that lyric anytime you wanted. You could have made variations on that. But people did it because they were all eating. So I don't blame anyone else. People wanted to be famous for whatever reason. And then when people got out of gangster rap, we just use that as because rap didn't start out as gangster. It was about dancing and being happy. Then it became about I can afford this because I can live a luxurious, a glamorous life. Then it came about violence. Now we're in, I don't know, it's more about sex now, I think. I guess that's what it is. And then a lot of more sex has come back into the picture and designer this and bling that and expensive stuff that. So no one puts a gun to your head to say that if you want to be famous, you do what you have to do. No one says you have to have that nose job or dye your hair blonde, but you do it because you want to do it.
It's true.
With all the.
So you don't believe in any like conspiracy? Not to say that you don't believe in a conspiracy, but you don't believe in any conspiracy of like the man is controlling.
No, I believe that. No, I believe that it's a business, and the business says that you do this, we'll give you this, we'll lease you this, we'll give you this, and you say yes. Even when you sign up for the package deal, you said, I want to be an A-star, B-star, C-star. A-star means I want to sell every story that I got. The paparazzi is going to follow me. I'm going to be your puppet. And you sign up for that. And then sometimes people sign up. It's more than you bargain for. Sometimes it's hard to get out of that devil's den. I'm not saying, but people. I mean, it's like you're going for a job and you're not asking your employee, what's the vacation? Will I move up in this position? What's the pay raise? People don't ask those questions on basic job applications, but they go in and they do work and they fucking hate it. But they do it because they need a paycheck at the end of the day. So what's the difference in the music business?
I see what you're saying. It's what would you like to choose at the end of the day, right? It's like, what would you rather do? Either way is going to be difficult.
Yeah, or you could say, I'm going to get in this game for a minute. I know the rules. I'm going to get in this game for a minute, but I'm going to parlay this into something else.
Right.
As people have made money from this business. The people who think they were under duress have made money, but what did they do to change it? Did they come out and do something else different? Did they open schools? Did they open neighborhoods?
Right.
I mean, Jay-Z is doing a little more
Akon.
now. Just say Jay-Z is doing a little more now. I mean, I don't know everything, but going back into the hood. If we had more of that, people would understand that you do something for a short time to get to a point in your life. We have the Cardi B's. Cardi B said, I was a stripper, and some people still begrudge her for that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with stripping. No. But Coco Chanel worked in brothels and cabarets. Do anybody diss Coco Chanel for being in the cabaret?
Right.
No.
Jesus chilled with Mary Magdalene.
Holla. I mean, Hugo Boss designed Hitler suits. The Volkswagen was the people's car.
Right.
So what you do and what the choices you make, have a plan, because it won't last forever. So you got to have a plan, and that plan, you don't have to go back to the neighborhood and take care of it, but invest in inherent wealth. That's the one thing that America has taken away from a certain group of people is inherent wealth, and the only way we're going to get an equal share of America going forward is to have inherent wealth.
Right. Nah, you're absolutely right.
Property, something of stability that passes on through generations.
Yeah.
generations.
Absolutely. It's a legacy.
Yeah, we have to have that. So, in the music game, I don't think that the conspiracy theory is the man. You did what you wanted to do because you wanted to be famous. And I'm going to just use that word. People want to be famous, even though they say they don't want it. They want to be famous.
Yeah. Well, what is it? What is it about? I think I saw the movie, right? I forgot what it was. I think it was like something. I don't know if it was like a European movie or it's like an older movie. And the message was this guy became famous out of nowhere for no reason. And then he was so confused as to why people wanted his opinion. And like he kept getting ambushed by a lot of people. And this was just like a random person that just so happened to said something different. And then he got a whole bunch of attention for it. And then by the end of the movie, somebody else said something random, and then all that attention was taken away. And during the whole time that he had the attention of being famous, he acted like he didn't want it.
Until he lost it all.
Until it was gone.
Until it was all gone.
And then he's like, it could have been nice actually.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then that was the point of the movie,
Yeah.
though. And then it was funny. Look, is fame a bad thing? I think it could be. But I think fame could be something amazing as well, right?
Well,
it's a duality.
Well, I think fame. I think you have to have you have to be built for it. For instance, I would when I got on to DJing and traveling the world. You get to a certain city or a certain country, and the guys there at the airport, BLUEPHUNK, and you get into the limousine and then you go to this vineyard and the people are shouting BLUEPHUNK. And I had none of my friends there because I couldn't afford to get them there, but none of my friends in this audience. And I'm a person who's perfectionist, so I'm giving this whole night because I'm gonna give it all, you know. And I go back to the hotel and you sit there and you realize how exhausted you are. And I don't think that I was built to be famous because I would have to carry that umbrella of fame around all the time and every day. Right. And I don't think that I would have wanted that. So it's easy for me to have a moment in the spotlight, do my thing, disappear, go back another time, do something else, as opposed to having, my name in lights for that short time and having them burnt out and then having the rejection. Like now I go on these blogs and I see people, talking about, you look like shit. I saw what you call them, they look like shit, and they would show the horrible pictures. I just couldn't handle that. I just couldn't turn that button on all day.
Why? I mean, you don't have to look at it, right? Fuck that.
But you don't. but it does. At the end of the day, when people tell you your album sucked or you perform, like if I have a bad night DJing, I can feel it that it wasn't my best, and I feel like shit for 2 days. Like I'm just so sensitive like that of my art and what I put out.
Yeah.
That I don't think I could be built for all the rejection. Now I'm okay with criticism, but that's just something to make me better. But just to see the rejection in this, and I think a lot of people, not everyone is built for that, which is how a lot of people are not here today. If they had not been famous, they would still be alive today, I would think.
Interesting.
Give
an example. Who?
I would think we can go down to Kurt Cobain. You talk about Nirvana. I think that a lot of look at the artists who died at 27. The obsessive drugs. You could go down that whole list of them, the 27 crew. Just the drugs and the whole, the best of the best. Right. Until you're so bored, you get sanitized because nothing is getting your mojo
desensitized.
Going. Yeah, desensitized. Yeah, because nothing has got you've done the best of the best.
Right.
So sometimes that it takes an effect on people, and then in order to keep this persona up, it takes a lot. And then you got a payroll of people that you have to support. Yeah. It's not easy.
It's not.
Right.
I think you're right. I guess it's not everybody's made for it. I don't know what allows for those components to work, but I think you really do have to want it, and also not be fazed by a single degree other people's opinions.
Of course.
I think that. Also, if you take a look at a person like Drake, for example, like I'm sure Drake has a group of people, and I am sure he does because he spoke about this, like that he goes out to and gets the opinions from those specific people. But the rest is like, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's easy to
people that care about.
And maybe he's right, but at the end of the day, it's easier to say that. But at the end of the day, you can say that. But I don't think that But I don't think that. I mean, and some people are good like that. Some people can just walk down the street looking like shit and don't give. You know, So I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, I don't think that I ever wanted to be famous. I think that you know, I think that just limits you in your job and what you do. Because a lot of these stars, you know, not now you have to go. You're not making movies anymore, but now you're selling. I don't know. Lollipops on the corner, and they go, "When didn't you used to be the guy? Didn't you?" So it's so hard to fluctuate, you know, and to do other things,
Yeah.
you know.
I think it's like everything in life, right? Like like how we spoke about earlier. It's gonna be challenging. People are gonna look at you wild just for even starting, you know. So either way, the concerns and the vantage points of how other people look at you is really just how they're looking at themselves, right? At the end of the day, they're not trying. They don't know, because if the people that were trying, they wouldn't say anything. They'd be like, "Oh, he's just trying." You know, it's like it's another person that is inspired by the endless amount of creativity that was displayed throughout their lives.
True.
You know,
That is true.
it's a wild arrangement of processes in your individual mind to even decide to emit whatever artistic pursuit you have within. You know, it's something that is undeniable because it's your choosing. You know?
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think that if you choose that road to be a star, now remember, in order to be a star, there's a marketing ploy that comes in there, and even if you're selling grunge, somebody's making you grungier, and if you're selling beauty, they're making you prettier, and if they're selling this, so whatever that thing is you have, they're just making it to the extreme.
Amplifying.
Yes, and when you walk down the street and that's not part of you, who you really are, people can see it.
Right.
So people expect you to walk with that umbrella all the time and carry that all the time. Now, if they could market you as you are, just generally yourself, you would be okay.
Right.
Or I would be okay.
Yeah.
But they're gonna do something different. They're
There's
gonna
always
make you.
problems.
They're gonna make you more Spanish than what you are, or make you whatever little story you had, and blow it out of proportion, and you know, and just make it. You know, oh, he was struggling when I saw him, and you know, he wasn't eating, and blah 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 blah, and then, you know, and people say, no, he wasn't. I remember he was.
And who is they?
Well, it's the people that you bring in to make you famous. You know, so it's a team of people. Now you can become famous on your own. Now, if you can do everything, if you could do your own music production, post it, do your own posters, you know, do your own, you know, distribution. People can. I mean,
I can't. I don't believe that you can become famous by your complete self.
I think you can.
By your complete
yes,
self?
if you had the tenacity to do it all. I mean, you know, you can, you know,
I think you still need a team of some sort. You're still working with people, you know, at some degree.
I don't.
To some degree.
I've done my best work by myself. I've done my best songs that I like personally, just me, and just me myself. You know, and if anyone hears it or not doesn't matter. But if I was if I was a person into marketing, as the passion that I have for music, I would be famous. I'm a happenstance person, so things are happening without me putting in effort. What do you think would happen if I put in a little effort?
Yeah.
If I marketed myself.
Right. But that's why it's also like would be great to have a team.
Well, no, like you could do it, but
you could do it too. But then you could also just for this example, right? We all have a mental capacity for things.
Sure.
You, during the time that you've been living, have learned X amount of things.
True.
And somebody else with the same age, same mental capacity, may have learned different things.
Facts.
And like you could be great with music. You've been doing it for X amount of years. But another person could be great at marketing because they've been doing it for X amount of years.
Yeah, but you can be great at it all. Like for instance, I do interior. Listen, I do personal training. I do interior design. I do music. I do DJ. So I do all these things, and I think I do them well. I think that I put my passion into it. I have a knack for it. Right. If I had the knack to, like that video was quick because that was marketing. Right. Before I went to Rome, they wanted something. So
the video we watched,
yes,
they don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we watched the video that I had to do. So I needed a promo to do this to DJ this rave that was in Rome, and I had nothing, and I had no people to push it. So I my thing is I wait till the 99th second to do everything. So my back is against the wall. I got 2 days to get on this plane, and I just got up and I just remixed one of my songs, and I just went on somewhere on the internet and found how to make videos and spice it together, boom, 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 put it together and did it. And before I know it, I got hits. I got like all these hits. Like people was like, "Oh my God, this is great," blah 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 blah. And I just needed a song to open or close with.
Right.
That was the whole point of it. But it took off. Now, if I had the passion to do that every day, I could. I mean, you do what you want to do. I
Right.
do what I want to do. So
Yeah.
I could be great at it. If I really took this seriously, I could be my own box. But then you wouldn't have people to tell you when enough is enough or too much is too much and blah, 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 blah. So you know, to wake up and do all the emails, to email everybody back and read all that stuff, you could, at this point, you can do it all. You can do it all. You get up in the morning and you say, okay, I got 2 hours to read all my emails. I mean, and listen, go through all the Instagrams and hear all the bad shit or the good shit and write back and write this. And it's so much easier now than it used to be.
Wow.
So a person could be their own little box and keep all that cash for themselves.
Wow.
What is something that you can say to the people that you would have said to your younger self?
To my younger self, I would have said, well, because I think that the thing that got me to be as old as I am and to be alive and well
Good health.
is that, huh?
And good health.
Well, good health. Is that I didn't spend a lot of time in the moment. The moment was the moment. I wasn't trying to keep the moment going. The moment was the moment. The moment was that moment. I was in that moment. And I think a lot of people losing the moment. I see people in a moment on phones and aloof to this.
What's going on?
But yeah, and they're not in the moment.
Yeah.
But before you know it, that moment will pass.
So true.
So and another thing I've learned, but I learned at a later age, is to invest in people, not in things, because those things come and go. I remember, driving a BMW and having a house in Jersey and blah blah blah, and that was a time and a moment. Since then, I've got a different car. I've moved on from different car. I've moved to a different house. So, but I invested in good people who still stay in my life. So I can be in 4 countries. I could be in the Hamptons, I could be in Florida, I could be in Miami because I invested in those people. And I can pick up a phone and say, hey, and I give to them and they give to me and we give to each other. And the best thing in life, so I would say that to answer your question, is to invest in people and not invest in things.
I think Shaq said that.
Really?
Yeah.
I think Shaq stole that from me probably.
I think he stole that from, Warren Buffett, if I'm not mistaken.
Really, I'll look it up.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's definitely smart. Why not invest in what keeps everything going?
Right. So, okay, so I'm an old me and you're a young you.
Yeah.
And we have a connection. 10 years from now, you could be the president of who whatever. And you're like, hey, D, what's up? We having this fun. And blah, 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 blah.
Let's go get this coffee.
Exactly, because I invest in you and you invest in me. And because we never know who's going to do what and who's going to do what. And I see some people who I've met without name nameless, who I've met when they were no one, and they became someone. Wow. And a lot of people, but we still cool, and I still get to share in their life.
Yeah, because I get that since the first time I met you, man, you had this energy that was very just straightforward and honest, like it was genuine. You know what I mean? Yeah. That type of energy. I don't care if those words are so simple to hear. You don't come across that energy so often in society. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe you do, but some people are just like you said. They're closed. They're on their phones. So you don't even get to have that.
Head is always down.
So you don't even get to have that interaction.
Yeah. You gotta have your head up. You gotta have your head up.
Yeah.
Gotta have your arms open, ready to receive, and you gotta be ready to give too. Yeah. You know, I mean, because a lot of people, New York sometimes create a lot of takers. Right. You have to be a person that gives as well. Because, and if you give something and that particular person doesn't give it back, the universe will give it back somewhere or another.
That's true. That's the paying it forward aspect.
Yes, correct.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, I appreciate this time to have a chat.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah. Where can the people find you?
I'll find you. BLUEPHUNK.
Hey. So yeah, thank you, bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
ago. It's the conversation. Yeah. Take your mind different places. Now you know. So yeah.